Today I'm going to be using Prezi to give a presentation on fair use. So we're going to be talking about fair use, the barriers to teachers with fair use, and best practices, as well as I'll list the references at the end. So with multimedia use, there's 4 factors to consider, especially with teachers teaching with multimedia. These are purpose, the nature, the amount, and the market effect of the content being used. So the purpose. Teachers and students are more protected when using copyright materials for classroom assignments and lesson projects. When we consider the nature of what's being used, facts are not protected under the copyright law, but creative works may require permission in order to be used. The amount of media that you use. The smaller the portion of a work, the more likely it will be protected under fair use. And the market effect. The broader the distribution of the new use of the work, the more potential there is for the market of the original work to be impacted. So what are some of the barriers for teachers when it comes to using multimedia that's copyrighted? Well, fear. Teachers are afraid to use real examples of media in their classrooms because of the message they have been receiving about copyright compliance. Familiarity. Because many teachers are less familiar with the rapidly changing media tastes of adolescents, they depend on media literacy curriculum materials created by experts and not by themselves. And circulation. Because of the fear of violating copyright, teachers limit student media production to the classroom, limiting any real audience from the work that is produced. And misinformation. People just don't know the best practices and communicate some ad hoc, groundless rules of thumb, or even just ignore them when it comes to multimedia. So let's talk about best or better practices when it comes to utilizing multimedia in a variety of ways. The first one would be commenting or critiquing. This is when we take raw material, an example from popular culture, and comment it in some way. The new use should not become a market substitute for the original work. In this example, bedroom pop.
Songs that fall under a vague, misunderstood label.
In this video, the creator talks about his favorite music, bedroom pop, uses video and music samples to critique and comment on this style of music. It doesn't replace the original work, it's simply giving his opinion on this genre of music. Illustration, using copyrighted material because it illustrates an argument or a point. It shouldn't be longer than necessary to achieve the desired or intended effect. In this example, the creator talks about race and ideologies presenting in film, especially Disney movies. They take a variety of short clips pointing out the various racist depictions of people throughout many Disney films. Incidental use. This is where sound or images have been captured incidentally or without prearrangement as a part of an unstaged scene. It shouldn't be used so extensively that it calls attention to himself as the primary focus. Let's look at an example. In this example, we have a boy dancing at a concert and the song is playing in the background. They're not purposely trying to use the song as the point of the video. The point is the boy is dancing to the music and the music just happens to incidentally be playing in the background. Preservation. Creators regularly collect, describe, and catalog media to preserve the cultural expression for the public memory. It reaches its limits when the material is readily available from authorized sources. Let's look at an example. In this example, Alan Lomax went around the country recording blues artists. R.L. Burnside is seen sitting outside playing one of his songs on this home recording. The purpose was to preserve the music of this time, where authorized sources are limited because a lot of the songs were never officially recorded and played on porches and backyards across the South. Discussion. This is when the content that was originally offered to entertain or inform or instruct is offered for the purpose of launching an online conversation. This is important that the viewer needs to know that the intent of the poster is to spur discussion. Here's an example of this.
Let us know in the comments. Thanks again to our incredible patrons for supporting our podcast.
In this example, the creator talks about the movie Parasite, and we're looking at class as a critique. He makes sure to say at the end that this point is for discussion, and he wants comments below to discuss this. He's not trying to replace the original work, and the amount of content he uses from the original work is limited. And mash up a remix. This kind of activity is covered by fair use to the extent that the reuse of the copyrighted work creates a new meaning or juxtaposition. If a work merely is reused without significant change, the context or the meaning, then its reuse goes beyond the limits of fair use. Let's look at an example here.
I like to sing, dance, pretend, and I like to have fun.
In this entertaining example, the creator takes an old video of a children's program and remixes it into a trap song. The original content is completely changed, and he adds his own twist to it, so he's creating new meaning. Here are the references I used to create this presentation. So we talked about fair use, we talked about barriers for teachers, and we talked about best practices. Fair use is tricky, but by following these guidelines and best practices, we can use multimedia in the classroom effectively.